Let's go ahead and open up in Leviticus 14:33. And it says, "And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when you have come into the land of Canaan, which I give you as a possession, and I put the leprous plague in a house in the land of your possession, and he who owns the house comes and tells the priest, saying, it seems to me that there is some plague in the house, then the priest shall command that they empty the house before the priest goes into it to examine the plague, that all that is in the house may not be made unclean, and afterward the priest shall go in to examine the house, and he shall examine the plague. And indeed, if the plague is on the walls of the house with ingrained streaks, greenish or reddish, which appear to be deep in the wall, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and shut up the house 7 days. And the priest shall come again on the seventh day and look. And indeed, if the plague is spread on the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take away the stones in which is the plague, and they shall cast them into an unclean place outside the city. And he shall cause the house to be scraped inside all around, and the dust that they scrape off they shall pour out in an unclean place outside the city. Then they shall take other stones and put them in place of those stones, and he shall take other mortar and plaster the house." I know that was a lot, but so pretty much there's a plague, leprous, that goes in the house, and if it spreads, then they have to shut the house down for 7 days. And then the priest has to go in and examine it and see if the plague is still there, if it's spread into the walls and everything. So what I want us today to do is look at the house as our life. So look at, the inside of us and say, do I have plagues? Do I have leprous things inside of me that are going to grow into bigger things than they actually are right now? So I don't know if you guys can all see this, but so this is us, right? We're clean. The house is clean. Everything's good. But when we take the plague or we take the leprous, and even just a little drop, it's already beginning to change the clean thing inside of us. It's already beginning to change and spread inside of us. Now, it's 7 days, right? So let's just say each day. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, too many days, but that's all right. So as you see, 7 days, man, it's beginning to grow inside of us pretty big. It's beginning to change who we are inside. And it's funny because if we take on things that aren't good for us, and we know they're not good for us, then why do we take them on? Why do we take the plagues that we know are right there in front of us, that the devil is putting right there, just walk around it? Say, God, I can see that the plague is right there, but guess what? You have a new direction for me, and I'm going to go around it. I don't see that plague anymore. I don't see the leprous thing spreading inside of me. But as you can see, the water is already getting dark. The clean thing is already getting unclean. And I think it's funny that, so 7 days they shut it down, and 7 days later, right, they go and check, and if the stones and everything, if they're all just nasty and the lepers are just spread into it, you're supposed to take it to an unclean place outside the city. So the title message today is Inside Out. What things can we get inside of us that don't need to be there out? Or what things can we get outside that God wants us to get inside? What can we bring in? So it's funny, me and Mariah right now, we're actually looking to get a house or an apartment or whatever. And man, there are some nice ones and there are some nasty ones. And when you're looking at a house, it's like, man, the outside is just so nice. And then you go and look at the pictures inside, it's like, what happened? Was there just a bear in there ripping things apart? But it's funny how things can look nice from the outside. You as people, us as people, can look nice from the outside, but what's really going on inside of you? What's really going on inside of you? And a lot of the times we put on that fake face, or we put on that fake worship, or we put on the fake, joy or happiness or whatever it may be at work, whatever it may be in the church, wherever you are. We put on fake things because we don't want people to see the real inside of us. But I tell you today, God wants you to see the real inside of you and to let it go. Get it out. Inside out. Get it out. So, we're looking for a house. Now, in some cases, you might be like, okay, the outside, it's all right. The inside's nice. All right, we might look at that one. Or the outside is really nice. The inside is just okay. Or both are really good, but you haven't seen that one yet. So how do we not settle just for one? How do we not settle just for a good outside, but not a good inside? Or how do we settle for a good inside, but not a good outside? And I was thinking about this. I'm like, how? Because a lot of the times in life, we say, okay, you know what? Yeah, one's good, but the other, it's all right. And we settle for that. Yeah, when I was looking to date Mariah, everything about her is amazing, right? But say I never met Mariah, and I'm just going along life, and somebody looks good on the outside, but their inside's terrible. I don't want to settle for just a good look. I want to settle for somebody that has a good personality, who loves Jesus, who's ready to go on a mission with me to preach the gospel. And I think it's funny in life, probably more divorces happen because of looks. They marry them for looks, but they don't really know what's inside of them. They have leprous things inside of them growing that's eventually going to cause issues, but they don't see that from the beginning. And that's why when we were dating, we actually friended first to see if we actually like each other, if we like, hanging out, seeing what's in there, before we even dated. There's a friending zone that you say, okay, we're not going to hold hands, we're not going to kiss, we're not going to do this. We're just hanging out as friends, just seeing what God has. And obviously, she's my fiance now, and amen, hallelujah. So we're excited about that. But so how do we not settle for one? Well, the first off, trust. So if we look at 2 Samuel 22:31, it says, as for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is proven. He is a shield to all who trust in him. God's way is perfect. So why are we settling for something that's not perfect when God has a perfect thing for us, but we just can't wait because, we're scared or we're fearful or whatever it may be, but we can't seem to wait on God for his perfect will, for his perfect way, right? We have to trust in him. And I know trusting is hard because you want to trust in God, you want to live right, you want to do the right thing, but fear comes in, doubt comes in, friends come in, family comes in, and it's like, man, I was so close to trusting God. And then what happened? Something came in, a leprous thing came into my insides and started to grow. There was a plague inside of me that started to grow inside of me, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Well, here's how we don't settle for one: faith. Let's look at Mark 10:46-52. Now they came to Jericho. As he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Then many warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. So Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. Then they called the blind man, saying to him, be of good cheer, rise, he is calling you. And throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Jesus. So Jesus answered and said to him, what do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, Rabboni, that I may receive my sight. Then Jesus said to him, go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. Faith. He's blind, right? A lot of us are blind, but maybe if we can hear Jesus, or maybe if we can get just that little hearing of Jesus or know that he's close to us, I might be able to get sight. I might be able to see what God has for me. I might be able to see the dreams and the visions come true that I've been dreaming. And the blind man, people were telling him, be quiet, you're no good, you're junk, you're garbage, whatever it may be. But God said, no, This man has faith, and I'm going to let him be able to see. And he said, because of your faith, be well. Because of your faith, go and live your life. And I think it's funny that, some of us, and it's happened in my life, where I'm blinded by what I think is God, but it's not actually God. So I can see something that, oh, that's of God, and I'll take it. But in reality, it's going to, on the inside of me, begin to destroy my life. And it can be the littlest things. It could be a movie that, okay, I've seen plenty of movies, whatever, but it might have one thing that really sticks inside of me that I begin to start living out that life. Or music. It's not uplifting, it's not bringing joy to me. And if you constantly hear that and put it inside of you, you're going to start living that life of depression and anger and hatred. But when we can get to a point where we say, you know what? I know that all the things of the world, they're going to come and attack me because we're strong in God. And I know the devil's going to come and attack me the hardest because we are strong in God and we know who God is in us. So that's when we have to be even stronger and trust in God and have faith in God that he's going to do everything that we need in the power of us to get through it. But why do we settle for just one? Why do we settle for the good-looking house but the inside is terrible? Or why do we settle for the inside that's amazing but the outside isn't good? We settle for things because we're impatient. We settle for things because we're lazy and we don't want to wait. We just want it right now, right now, right now. I want to see it right now. I don't have faith that it's going to be in 5 months. I don't have faith that it's going to be in 3 years. I want to see it right now. And God's saying, then you're not going to have my blessing in this house or on the inside of you unless you wait for me and have the things that I am called for you. And the third one is obedience. Obedience, obedience, obedience. Man, that's a rough one. Because how many of you guys know when you got a disobedient child, Luke, just kidding. Nah, he was the good child. I was all right. I got in trouble a lot. But, it's funny. One time, my parents, I get to tell my parents now because I got the mic. But it's on me because it's a story about me. But my parents are like, okay, we're getting ready for school. And they say, go brush your teeth. I'm like, all right. So I turn the water on, but I ain't brushing my teeth. I just turn the water on. And my mom comes up and says, did you brush your teeth? Mm-hmm. I did. She's like, let me smell your breath. Or she felt the toothbrush or something. It wasn't wet. Like, come on, Austin, put the toothbrush under the water. Like, you should know that. But so a little disobedience turned into me not playing basketball for the whole year. And boy, was I not happy. I was like, Austin, you couldn't brush your teeth for 2 minutes? Now you lose basketball for a whole year. And that's what God does. Oh, yeah, it's yeah. I love basketball. For you guys that don't know, I love basketball. It was my favorite sport. It's what I wanted to play in the NBA, but just like my dad, growth. But no, it's all right. Like father, like son, I guess. But obedience, and it's funny because when you obey God, when you're obedient to God, when you trust and have faith and you're obedient to his word and to what he has for you, you're going to see things that you never thought were possible. You're going to see that house that you never thought you could have. You're going to see the inside of you begin to spit out things that aren't good for you because you're obedient to his word, you're obedient to what he has for you, and you trust in him and you have faith in him. But some of you guys might say, okay, I trust in God, but faith and obedience, that's not for me. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to obey God, whatever. I trust him, but if he tells me to do something, I'm not going to do it. But they all go in hand. It's like the Trinity, Father, Spirit, Son. Trust, faith, and obedience. If you have one, why not have the others? You know, it's like, okay, you trust God. So if he's telling you to do something and you trust him, well, that doesn't make sense. You don't fully trust him then. Because if you obeyed God, you would know that it's going to be okay because you trust him. And when you have faith in God and faith for the unseen, then you're going to trust that you already know that God down the road is going to have this for you. And when you obey him and when you obey his word, then you're going to see things come to pass that you might not ever thought that would have came to pass. So, trust, faith, and obedience. Let's look at Romans 16:19 through 20. For your obedience has become known to all. Therefore, I am glad on your behalf, but I want you to be wise in what is good and simple concerning evil. Be wise in what is good. Know that God has a plan for you and that God's plan is going to be good. But you got to see evil coming at you in all directions. But just be simple for it. You don't need to try to get into it. Just say, God, I know you have my hand in this. Let God take it. But we don't let God take it. We try to deal with that on our own. We try to be that strong, macho man or woman and deal with it on our own. But you're not going to be able to deal with every single demon that comes at you on your own. You might get through one, but when that 3 or 4 attack you at the same time, good luck. Unless you have God's hand upon you, unless you trust in him, you have faith in him, and you know that he's going to get you out of that alive. Let's look back at verse 39 and 40 in Leviticus. And the priest shall come again on the 7th day and look. And indeed, if the plague is spread on the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take away the stones in which is the plague, and they shall cast them into an unclean place outside the city. Oh, yeah, keep going, sorry. And he shall cause the house to be scraped inside all around, and the dust that they scrape off they shall pour out in an unclean place outside the city. Then they shall take other stones and put them in the place of those stones, and he shall take other mortar and plaster of the house. So, the stones, the mortar, the plaster, all those that were unclean, that the plague touched, that the lepers touched, they're to be taken outside of the city into an unclean place. And they're to put new ones, new stones, new plaster, new mortar into the house, right? They're to put new things in the house to make it look nice or to, remodel, whatever. So I told you in the beginning to look at the house as yourself, okay? Those leprous things, those plagues that are inside of you that you've allowed to come inside of you, the things that you've grabbed, the things that you've held on to from this world that aren't of God, okay, they're inside of you growing, right? It's growing inside of you. But if you would take 7 days or however long it takes and dig into God's word, dig into prayer, dig into worship music, and begin to say, God, I know I have these things inside of me. I know these stones are inside of me that are not of you. I know that I'm dying inside. My spirit man's mourning, and I need a new. I just need new. I need a new me. I need a new inside. I need you in my life. And if we could begin to take 7 days or 3 or 5 or 10 or a year, whatever it takes for you to begin to pour those things out, begin to get those things from the inside out, then you're going to see new stones. You're going to see new mortar. You're going to see a new you. But it all comes back to you have to have trust in God that he's going to do it in you. Then you have to have faith that it's going to happen, but you have to have obedience to do it for the 7 days or the 10 days or however long it takes. Obey God. So the plagues in our lives, you might have just picked one up, or you might have, just got a hold of something in the world, or it might be a thing that you've been holding on to for 20 years or 15 or 30 or whatever it may be, a week, a month. You might be holding on to them for so long that it's going to take a while for you to realize that it's still in there. Because here's the thing that sometimes I think we don't realize is we might put something inside of us, but we might forget about it, that it's even in there. And 20 years down the road, it comes up and it's like, oh, I forgot that was in there. You forget about things that are bad in your life, maybe because you want to forget about them, you just don't want them there, or because it just, time has been so long that you don't remember that it's in there. But when you start getting into God's presence and you start worshiping him and you start believing in him again and trusting him and obeying him, these things are going to start festering up in your spirit, and your spirit man is going to become stronger. You are going to become stronger in who God says you are. And I think when those start coming up, it might be scary. It might be like, oh man, I had that in there. I had this in there. I'm going through this. Yeah, and it might be scary in the moment. But when you get those out, you're going to become a new person. You're going to have your joy back. You're going to have your peace back. You're going to be able to sleep at night knowing that you have trust in God and that God's going to be with you no matter what. And I think that's what we have to be as Christians. We have to realize that, yeah, we all go through things. Every single one of us. Nobody's perfect in this world. We all go through things. We all deal with things. But the one that's going to be better is the one that actually deals with them, with God. You can hold those things inside and be like, you know what? They'll fade away. I haven't watched that kind of movie in 20 years. But it's still inside of you if you haven't rooted that out. Oh, I haven't listened to that kind of music in 15 years. But it's still inside of you until you root it out. You got to begin to root things out that you do not want in your life, because they will come back to you and begin to tear you apart again. And then you're going to have to go through it all again. God, I need your help. God, I need you to begin to do a work in me. I need you to begin to break me open and make me new. How many of you guys have ever thrown up? Yeah. Throwing up's not fun, right? The last time I threw up was 8th grade, first day of school. I didn't go to school first day. That's all right. I don't mind. But I was throwing up, and I don't know, it's something I ate or who knows. But I think the time before that was I was eating at a Baskin Robbins, but it was Togo's, but I ate their ice cream, and it just didn't settle well. And boom, it came out. But, and this is where I get to. Ice cream might look good, but if there's something in it that's not good, and I'm putting it inside of me, then that's going to make my insides not feel good, and it's going to make me throw up something that isn't good, right? Now, yes, throwing up is good because you get it out, you get it all out, but you're still sick. You still don't feel good inside. It's like, is it going to come again? Am I going to upchuck again? I don't even know. But it's funny because we can look at things that might look good to our eye or look good to our flesh. But inside, our spirit's saying no, because you're going to begin to throw up. You're going to begin to become sick. And it might not look bad. I love pizza, but sometimes pizza doesn't settle well, But I'll still eat it every single day because I love it. Pizza's not of the devil. Pizza's from God, okay? Yes, amen. I'm going to have me a pizza oven in heaven and, whatever toppings I want. But we can see things that might look good. And maybe in the past, it didn't affect you. But because of where you are in God and where you've grown in God, they're going to affect you now because you're not an immature Christian. You're maturing in God. So God requires more of us. And I know it's hard because it's like, man, maybe you became a Christian, later in your career, later in your life. But even though you did that for so long, once you start growing in God and you start becoming mature in Christ and knowing who God is in your life, yeah, you might see those things and it's like, man, those look so good because they were good before. They made you feel good before. but now your spirit's not going to feel good. And it's going to begin to hurt your spirit. And it's going to begin to put leprous things and plagues, and it's going to begin to grow inside of you, and you're going to have pain. You're going to have suffering. You're going to begin to throw up. You're going to begin to just not love life and all these things. And it's like, if we can just get to the point where we know what God is calling us to do, we know what God doesn't want us to listen to, we know what God doesn't want us to watch, but we still do it because our flesh is stronger than our spirit. But when we can flip that around and say, you know what, my spirit is stronger than my flesh, I know who I am in God, I know that I'm not going to be able to watch those things because it's going to hurt me, then you start thinking, okay, you know what, I can do this. I can do this. It's like when you have kids, my parents were always good about this. I would always ask to go to a friend's house, and they would say no. That was their answer all the time, no. And I'm like, but God, come on, really? Like, it's just a friend. Like, I'm just going to their house. Their parents are going to be there. Nothing's going to happen. But in his spirit, he didn't feel good about it. And there was only a couple of friends that I could actually go to their house, spend the night, whatever. But in his spirit, he felt something wasn't right. And if he would have let me go to the friend's house and something would have happened, he would have felt so bad in the spirit because he knew that he shouldn't have let me go, but he did because I was begging, I was crying, whatever it may be. But because he was strong enough in God, and because even though it might have made me cry, it might have made me upset at him, in the end, I know that it was always for the best for me. And I know that I can always trust my parents in those decisions, and I know that I can trust them and make sure that they have what's best for me. And that's how we need to be as parents. If you don't feel right in your spirit, or you just feel something's just completely wrong and you don't know why, don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. And I know they might hate you. They might say some things that you don't want to hear. But in the end, when they see the destruction that might have went on where they were going, they're going to say thank you. And they're going to begin to be like, you know what? Maybe I do need to start listening to them. Obeying God, obeying your parents, got to do it. Yeah, that's right, Mama. It's a good thing. So I think in life, we just have to realize that no matter what we go through, no matter what things come inside of us, no matter what we have to deal with, we have to put our trust in God. We have to have faith in God, and we have to obey God. No matter how hard it might seem to obey God in that moment, no matter how hard it might seem to have faith in something that you can't see, have faith, have trust, have obedience, because God's going to begin to bless you for that. God's going to begin to show you, okay, the very first time is going to be really scary. But when you begin to do it more often, when you get comfortable with it, it's going to become natural to you. It's going to become, okay, I don't even need to think about that. I already know what's inside of me. So when we begin to throw those things inside of us out, and we begin to bring the outside things in that are from God, then you're going to be coming, having this confidence. You're going to have this ability to know that everything's going to be okay no matter what I go through. You're going to begin to have just this peace over you that even though you're going to go into the work and you hate work because people say things to you and people do things to you, but you're going to know I have the peace of God on me. I have joy. I have patience, and no matter what they say, no matter if my boss fired me, no matter if I have to get a new job, no matter if I have to do the chores for a week, it's going to be okay. Chores are rough, but it's going to be okay. But we just got to let God be God in our lives. Instead of letting us try to be us and figure it out, let's let God be God and work through us to be able to get these things out. And I know a lot of the times when you're sick, you're just laying in bed. You just feel nasty and just want to go to sleep. And sometimes you just might want to, whatever, maybe throw up the other end, whatever. It's rough sometimes. But it's good to get those things out. It's good to get sickness out. It's good to get the things out of our lives that we don't need, because in the end, it makes us better. Throwing up in the moment is going to be bad. But once you get it out, you start to begin to feel a little better. You start to begin to, kind of get your strength back and, whatever it may be. But we have to go through the hard times. We have to get the things out, and it might be hard, but God's remolding you. He's remaking you into a new creation. He's building you up. Instead of you trying to build yourself up with things from the world, He's beginning to build you up with things from the Spirit. And He's beginning to prophesy into your life and begin to bring these things up. And you might not see it in the moment. And you might say, man, God hasn't done anything for me in a long time. Are you alive? Are you coming to church on Sunday mornings? Are you trying to worship Him? Yeah, we might not have the worldly things. We might not have the PS4s and the nice cars and the nice homes and, whatever it may be. But we have God. And we have God's house. And we have His presence. I'm going to close with this. So let God be God in your life. And let Him do the work in you. But you have to want it. You have to want those things out of your life. You have to want those things inside out. And I think that when we are with God, and when we know God and we trust Him and everything's going great, that's when life's really going great. But when we fall away and we start picking up those plagues and everything that's going to just start tearing us apart, then that's when we start losing our faith in God. That's when we start losing our trust in God. That's when we start settling for okay things instead of what God has for us, and we know it's going to be great. But you have to want it. You have to want what God has for you, or you're never going to get what God has for you. If you're not wanting it, then why would God give it to you? It's like if you want a candy bar and it's right in front of you, if you want it, you're going to take it and grab it, But if you know it's going to be bad for you, then you might reach for it, and God's going to come slap your hand and say you don't need it. But just remember in life and who you are in God, remember the things that God has done for you, because that'll get you through the things that you might be struggling with, you might be dealing with, and it's going to give you the strength to be able to move on into the things that God has for you. Trust, faith, obedience. Let God be God, and you got to want it. You got to want those things out. So as you go on through your week and weeks and weeks and years and whatever, just remember, obey God. Have faith in the unseen. Have faith that you know God's going to work it out, and just trust that He's going to do it. It sounds simple, but I know it's hard. I know it's hard to fully put your trust in something that you can't see. But I know for me, He showed me so many things that I was like, how did you just do that? It might be through prophecy. It might be through someone speaking in your life, and they've never met you before, and it's like, okay, you never met me. You know what I'm going through. It has to be God, So trust in Him. Put your faith in Him. Obey Him. Let Him be Him in your life, and you got to want it out.